Hello and welcome to Sailing Britican, where we help people become safe, confident cruisers. This episode gives you an insight into what it's like to be crew members during Guys Week on board Britican. We recently welcomed on board a great crew of guys who are keen to get to grips with the cruising life. Ted, Scott and Miles hail from St Louis and we're looking forward to some sailing on the open ocean. Once they had settled in, it was over to the ever knowledgeable Captain Simon to start with the education and familiarisation for the whole boat, ensuring that a full safety briefing had been given and the crew were aware of all the rules on board.
Mayday is pretty clear.
Then it was on to learn the ropes, quite literally, and what they're used for whilst in harbour and out at sea. After the full initiation, we headed out of Simpson Bay for a full day's sail. With a good amount of prior knowledge, the guys were able to apply their sailing experience fairly quickly. Although getting to know a vessel as big as Britican is not a quick process and needs a lot of due care and attention. Once we all got into the swing of things, there was some great sailing ahead, reaching up to 9 knots at times and having some beautiful weather along the way. After several hours of sailing, we headed to Marigot Bay to anchor. We arrived into Baie de la Potence, part of Marigot Bay, and went for a wander to the fort on top of the hill which looks over the harbour. Despite being a few thousand miles away from the mainland, St Martin and in particular Marigot do feel very French. The combination of the Caribbean and French styles creates a very glamorous and artistic mix. Nearly every day in the Caribbean ends with a beautiful sunset, after which, on this particular evening, we all jumped into the dinghy and headed over to Dock 46, which is a fantastic pizza restaurant. Day 2 of sailing, and we headed off around the north face of St Martin and came back down on the east side towards Fourchue, a small unpopulated island which is very peaceful. When we arrived, we were very happy to see that there were only a handful of other boats. Most harbours, bays and marinas are packed this time of year. Day 3, and we left our anchorage in Fourchue and head over to St Barts, which is only a short distance. As we were staying 2 nights in St Barts, we looked to anchor in Columbia, which is a quiet bay situated just north of the port of Gustavia. On our approach to Columbia, Ted and Scott got us ready to attach to the mooring ball. Now, mooring balls can be particularly troublesome as the captain is not able to see the ball once he is a short distance away from it. So communication from the person with the boat hook is key, and then the coordination between the crew members has to be spot on to enable the ball to be picked up and the line fed through the eye so that it can be secured back onto the cleat. All of this whilst being as quick as possible. The boys did a great job. It's always very exciting to reach a new destination, and the first part of any arrival is to check out the surroundings and take in the environment. For some, it's a time to reflect on what's happened so far and think about future exploration. It was only about an hour after we arrived that we were joined by a very familiar neighbour. This is super yacht Flag, owned by the world famous fashion designer Tommy Hilfiger. For the more regular viewers watching, you will recall that Britican had an encounter with Flag back in May 22, which was a little nerve-wracking at the time, but like most stories had a happy ending. It was nice to be in the same neighbourhood again. After a delicious curry night in Columbia, cooked by Captain Simon, we took a very long route around the port of Gustavia, managing to fit in a few more hours of sailing practice. St Barts is widely regarded as the richest island amongst the whole of the Caribbean. This wealth was very evident as we sailed past the bay outside the port of Gustavia. There are at least 100 super yachts and mega yachts. One of our favourites was Sea Cloud, which was built in Kiel, Germany in 1931. It is over 360 foot long and is currently a very exclusive cruise ship, able to take up to 64 very lucky passengers. We finished off our sail and headed into Gustavia to anchor for the night. Once we arrived into St Barts, we were very happy to see hundreds of sailing cruisers around us. There is a precedent that St Barts is only for the super yachts of the rich, but it's totally accessible for the general sailing community. We were also delighted to see that we had a special welcome from an inquisitive green sea turtle. That evening we set out to a couple of bars and then to our reservation at Eddie's Restaurant, which is another venue that Britican crew have previously been to, so we were warmly welcomed with smiles and superb food and drink. Having been treated like royalty the night before and having had a taste of the life of Riley, we continued our exploration into the world of luxury by leaving St Barts through the bay of super yachts, slowly taking in the size and scale of these amazing floating palaces. We could see the various different toys that the rich and famous play with on their holidays, and even some of the accompanying vessels for particular yachts. This catamaran had a support vessel which was almost as big as itself, with a shed load of jet skis, dinghies, and what looked like a submarine. It's actually mind-blowing to think how much these boats cost, including all the various different toys, dinghies, helicopters, jet skis, and then on top of that how much it costs to run these boats every single year, including all the crew and maintenance. We carried on back to St Martin, and when we arrived in Simpson Bay, we anchored and prepared the boat for the next Sailing Britican experience. Sailing Britican is not just about the life of sailing, it's about amazing experiences that become wonderful memories and friendships. Communication, teamwork, and most of all camaraderie are all key areas of focus for our voyages, with the aim to build solid relationships amongst all the crew. For more inspiration or to book your Sailing Britican experience, please visit www.sailingbritican.com.